directly benefiting from that.
Back to the issue of the farmers. You know that about 70% of the farmers in Nigeria are from the rural areas.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying something about them benefiting. Are they really benefiting from this global favorable structure?
Well, the rural areas where the crops are grown, and
also, sorry if I'm coming to remember that one of the complaints that they have is markets. There are no markets. Transportation of those products out of the rural areas into the urban areas where they are supposedly to be bought.
Right. You can speak of improvements, but at the end of the day, the most vital variable is the price. No. Price improvement means increased income for the farmer. Wherever the items are sold, if the prices are better, the income will get to him in the rural farm. You can always state issues. I mean, we are talking of price improvements within the last 5 years. The roads were bad 5 years ago. It still remain bad today, but prices have doubled. The income of the farmer has improved. That's the key. We are talking here cyclical improvements, in the situation of the farmers.
So if for instance the rails, so I asked a question about the rail system in Nigeria. If the rails are working properly, would that benefit the government in terms of taxing, as you asked?
Well, the government shouldn't be thinking about the rail on the basis of tax.
No, you're saying government is looking for how to tax that increased income for the farmer.
Yeah, but rail and taxing increased income for the farmer are two different things. Nigeria needs to make its rail system functional. A little has been done, but that's not enough. Having people to travel from Lagos to Ilorin, not many of you will be attracted to go and embark on that rail journey. Nigeria has to seriously tackle the issue of how do we bring efficient rail system back. Because it will considerably reduce the cost, of doing business. It could restore competitiveness to manufacturing. It's going to impact all sectors, not just agric. It's going to impact manufacturing. It's going to impact even real estate. If there are efficient rail system, that means that you can be living 3 states away and coming to work, in Lagos. It's going to impact, home prices in those places. You can, property values rises. Historically in Nigeria.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
Because now you just talked about housing, which they also put in as one of the gains, and also projection of what is to come. And now with the rail system you just highlighted, I think for a moment, a whole lot, just the way it is in other climes, someone can be in Wales and be working maybe in London, and you come all the way that distance. So it means that we can as well have that. People can come
pressure off Lagos,
off the big cities.
And it, redistributes, wealth to other parts of the country. Historically, rail terminuses were commercial centers in Nigeria. The presence of functioning like Ido, Lafenwa, Oshogbo, Dugbe, even Kapenta. So bring the rail back and you will revive the regional economies.
But the private sector still has to drive it.
Well, it's benefit to the country if you leave it for however you want to design it. Government should lead the way. Okay. Be a bit more aggressive about it. Rails were built in the past. When the rail was originally built, it wasn't built by the private sector, and almost everywhere in the world, I'm not sure it's about private sector. It's only in the U.S. I learned that rail development is primarily, driven by the private sector. So government, we need it. Government will gain from all the activities that we, be spinned off. And if you do not embark on this, if you do not drive this when the reserves are building up, you will not be able to drive it, when we get to a situation where the global cyclical downturn returns.
Okay.
Cycles, you have to think that economy is inherently cyclical.
If I may come in here, there are some figures that the Honorable Minister called out in terms of inflation that has slowed down to 9.1% from 12.4%. External reserves, you talked about external reserves. He said borrowing has fallen from 852 billion in 2011 to 588 in 2013. That's borrowing. And GDP has remained at 21% to debt, while debt to GDP has remained at 21%. Now, there are many out there who would say, okay, of all these figures being reeled out, of all the investment, foreign direct investment that's come out, according to the Minister of National Planning, that Nigeria has one of the highest levels of foreign direct investment. The question that many will be asking is, how does all of this translate to better living conditions? The former president said, how does this help in creating jobs? How does this help in improving the living standards of Nigerians? According to him, to former President Obasanjo, if the lives of Nigerians are not bettered, then the economy is not growing.
Well, I had him, and he did say creating employment, right? Yeah, and if some of the comments we've been making, about what could you do to open up, markets to, lift the situations, and when Nigeria had a functioning rail sector, you can connect the markets, employment. Wherever you say you have, if the presence of a terminus is a commercial hub, the arrival of, it's like if you stay close to the port, the arrival of a ship is automatic employment for thousands of people for the next few months. The same with the arrival of rail, If there is a booming market, markets have been opened up, employment will happen. So it's not about, government opening, was it ND or whatever, and we are talking of, removing the bottlenecks, to in the way of sectors. I mean, what's not making sectors grow? Manufacturing in Nigeria is unlikely to be competitive in the absence of rail transportation. It's that, and if manufacturing becomes competitive, they will generate growth. The fact that goods and people can be moved around itself will generate growth. The process of constructing the rail lines will generate jobs. People will be employed to build the rail lines, and when you finish building the rail lines, people will be employed in running it. And that most rail terminuses now also offer big marketing. You can create malls around, and that's going to employ a lot of people. So the question of looking for something you can do that confers multiple benefits in a permanent way. I think that's one of it.
All right, very interesting. But you also say in the next 2 years, the economy should expect some improvements.
Yeah, in terms of reserves are likely to grow more. We have 50 billion. We are likely to even surpass the 50 billion that we recorded at the time. The stock market is likely. The stock market is likely to grow more, and the liquidity situation is likely to improve. We are likely to see considerably lower interest rates. Market rates currently are lower than the monetary policy rate. That trend is likely to persist. And inflation, I do not see any significant inflationary tendency in the outlook. So inflation is likely
not a bad outlook then to look ahead to, but we'll have to thank you for coming on this morning. Dr. Ayatollah is an economist, and we'll be